was just thinking, I've done some classes on some mental health stuff. I was just wondering if I had any good talking points. My brain's not working.
You just reminded me of a quote that I wanted to say at the end of my closing statement, just so I can look slick.
Thank you, streaming. I'm gonna try to go into the group and see if it's there as well. My internet is kind of moving a little slow today. I don't know what's going on with that.
So I've had 5 cicadas land on me today.
Mm.
2 on my beard, 1 on my chest, 1 on my back, actually 1 on my hand, and another on my arm. 2 of which were clawing up to my face because they were feeling my energy. And then 1 just straight up smacked me in the face while I was working on the car.
Yo, guys,
What'd you say?
are we in the group as well?
Yeah, we live. Let me share it. Oh, wait, it's on your page. It's not in the group. Let me share it to the group.
I have no idea what is going on with Facebook and that. I'm gonna have to try to figure this out before next week. We'll give some people a chance to come on in here and then share it out to your pages if you'd like to do so. You share this page because I can do it. I have Facebook open.
Yeah, I'm sharing it. I'm sharing it. I share it at 2 places.
We have another member that is going to be coming in, guys. So we're going to take a few minutes here and give her some time to come in. But we also are going to give folks a chance to come on in and join us. And Soul had a little music for us. Am I still breaking up really bad?
No,
No.
you did.
Oh, good.
No, just need some time. That's all.
It'll be really nice when Facebook and Zoom figure out this whole streaming behind, though.
Yeah.
It streams behind. If there's a lag always on Facebook, which was what made the show the other day a little difficult because you have to give yourself some pause and try to wait for people to hear what they're saying to you, you know, but you can hear them in person. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a bit much. It'll be nice when they figure that whole thing out. I'm going to text her and see if she's going to make it on in. And it's a fairly short agenda, guys, today out there in the cyber world. So we should definitely be able to get through this successfully and giving everyone a little bit more time. What happened to our music? So
I was busy sharing. Hold on.
oh, sorry. How you doing? Missed the show on Thursday. Let me tell you that you missed the show.
Yeah.
I mean, you missed the show.
It was a party, all right. It was a showcase. It was a party. It was all that. And you missed out on tons of food too.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've been getting calls myself about Thursday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did Mo tell you that we did a cipher afterwards?
He told us in the group. It was like 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Y'all sat around and ciphered. That's what's up.
We was going. I didn't think it was 40 minutes.
We timed it. No, it was 40 minutes. His wife and I timed it.
I wasn't off the crown that much to get last track of time. But, hey.
We lost all track of time. We had to stop y'all because I had to get up.
Regina did say she is coming in, but we will give her 1 minute and 30 seconds. That's all I can get.
Oh, now it's doing it again.
People are, really trying to, go the extra with it, and they got their little backgrounds and everything set up, and we want this to be a cool space. It's a space of grace. People should be able to come in and relax and vulnerable and transparent. These are hard conversations that we have. So we want you to be in your most relaxed state of mind.
You're muted.
Thank you, darling. I said my sister is always fashionably late, and that's just her. And I just talked about grace. So we're going to give her some grace and go ahead and introduce ourselves and allow Soul to kick this thing off. And hopefully by the time we get through the introduction, she will have joined us by then. So as you all know, I am Wisdom, Dawn. And I don't like to call myself the founder of Back to Love. I like to call myself a member because I am just, how can I say that? I'm just a mental creator of this whole notion, and it is good to be here with you all this evening.
Yeah.
Y'all gonna tell the people who y'all are?
I thought Soul was gonna go. Okay, I'm up next. I am Mo Poetry Phillips. I'm a spoken word artist and officially part of the staff of Hit the Mic Cincy and one of the founders, supporting Don. So we have Soul, Elaine, and Demontre supporting on that venture. So she will be our new host starting July 16th. So make sure Hit the Mic Cincy. Yes. And we also, I'm the co-founder of Regal Rhythms Poetry, and that show is the 17th. So do not forget about that either, since we forgot to mention it on Thursday because of how it was.
No, I think we did what we talked about the 16th. I don't think we might have missed
17th.
We've been pushing the 16th, not really talking about the 17th.
Yes, yes.
You might as well talk
about the tell them real quick how they can sign up to Slam. The open mic is easy. Just show up and get your name on the mic.
Yeah. Right. So for the Slam, you would just have to cash app $25 to Regal Rhythms and send me your information. I'll email you Slam rules and everything. So we are accepting slammers for that. It is considered a mini slam, so we do have a vested interest. It's not just you all slamming and somebody winning the pot. we give $500 in total prizes. So it's definitely worth it. And it's a smaller slam. And then we do have a feature event also. And this time it will be Hood Rays, Mr. Ollie Woods from Chicago, Illinois. And he's dope, dope, dope. So you don't want to miss that show.
Yes. She come in looking like a fashion model. I'm telling you.
Shut up.
Are you on vacation now? Because your background looks different. It looks a lot sunnier, and it's getting a little dim on this side of town. Are you in Jamaica too?
Who he talking to?
Miss Gina?
Yeah.
Gina?
I'm getting ready to open the shades. My shades are closed.
No, it's looking bright enough.
Listen, y'all know, Don know I be outside in the sun. I don't, yes. Thank you, TJ. Thank you, Madison.
Looks like he's been in the sun. We're just introducing ourselves. Go ahead, Soul.
Open
Regina, you'll be out.
Okay, I'm Soul. I'm a hip hop artist, poet, writer, light worker, just trying to make sense of the world with my crew here. I'm happy to be a part of a group of people that I can be transparent with and be myself with. So I'm just, I'm just here. I'm the host for the evening, but I'll get more open as we get started. I'm still getting jitters leading these type of conversations.
Go ahead, Regina. Introduce yourself to the people.
My name is Regina. I am a proud member of Back to Love movement. I'd like to thank the organizer and founder, Don Wisdom Crooks, for giving me the opportunity to be a part of such an amazing group of people. I am a best-selling author, actress, poet, motivational speaker. I'm lying. I'm really not a poet. I just be writing.
I was about to say, don't you do it. Don't you do it. I was like, yes.
But I'm excited to be here. It's been a minute since I've been on with you guys, so I'm super excited.
Regina's been on her grind. I just told the people that we give people space and grace here. And so, those who make it every Sunday. We know that you are in our hearts. You are watching from your homes. Sometimes it's just not a good day,
Listen.
So everybody is welcome to be where they are, when they are, and we ain't got nothing to say about that. So
right, I'm off to Detroit for 3 weeks here in a minute. So yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
I ain't telling everybody where I'm going in 10 days. I'm gonna leave it to myself. Go ahead, so kick in. Oh, I'm sick. Okay.
Okay. Anyways, this is the Erasing the Shame part 2 of the Mental Health Podcast. Was it last week or the week before we did part 1? We talked, kind of to recap, the purpose of this podcast is to take different phrases we say regarding when a person is talking about mental health. Certain phrases we say in response as a defense mechanism. We shun it out, and there's a wall there to talk about it. And we dissected a little bit on the effects of it and why we say these things. So, for example, the first one we talked about is "I'm not crazy." Usually, that is a defense mechanism people say as to avoid rejection, alienation, or to admit there's a problem, or even so, just even from people having seen television or hear stories of how white people deal with mental health in the hospitals and just the overall ignorance and stupidity over mental health in general. It's not just us having ignorance of it. They were still trying to figure it out themselves. Even so, just yesterday, I had to explain to somebody what psychosis meant, because the minute she saw psycho, the word psycho in just the word psychosis, she thought, oh, that's crazy. No, psychosis is actually normal. It actually has a term. And when I explained it to her, it was like, oh,
It's a disease. I mean, it's in air quotations, but yeah.
Well, explain to me what you explained to her, because that's interesting to me. I don't know if I understand.
Okay, well, let me actually look up the actual term for psychosis so I can say verbatim because I don't remember top of my head. A severe mental disorder in which thought and emotions are so impaired that contact is lost with external reality. That's according to Google. However, psychosis has another meaning, and that is based on your ability to deal with interactions. It wasn't necessarily deemed to just mean severe mental disorder. It actually had the root word of just the psychosis of a person. Well, I won't get into that one. That's a whole nother conversation. But a lot of people don't know the real meaning behind these words. They just hear certain words like bipolar or OCD, and they don't really have an understanding on what those diseases are. They really don't have a true grasp of what it means. So there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of scarcity about talking about something that they don't understand. So another one we talked about was white people problems, going back to what we said about misinformation. And also that roots back to the dehumanization of Black people, where we was not considered not sophisticated enough to have mental issues, or we're not human, so we can't deal with certain things that quote unquote normal people would feel. So when you talk about hallucinations, delusions, and different mental disorders of that nature, it's like we don't get that. That's not part of our history. That's not part of our culture. That's something they deal with, and that adds to the division between us from us recognizing that we are both the same. And then another one we talked about was be strong, which I feel like is a good thing with our pride, but it's a very tricky, slippery slope because we have a tendency of, if we be strong, it'll eventually go away. We can press through. And one thing a writer had said at one point in talking about writing that stuck out to me, kind of inflects the mindset, I feel like, of the idea of saying be strong, is like, he said, things were going so bad in my life. He just said, if I just keep working harder, everything will be fine. And he kept going like this for 7 years straight until he was visiting his grandmother. And she asked him the question, how are you doing? He said, I'm fine. And when he said that and she looked at him, she said, you're not fine. And right then and there, he broke down from just avoiding it. And that's how I feel like when people say, be strong, it's almost like it's more of, we hate to see people we love hurt, so we rather just give them give them a tool and not show them how to use it. So that's one of the ways we use the phrases, and just also because once again, a lack of understanding, because we don't know how to deal with these problems. It's best to just give it a blank statement, just to defend either themselves or feel like this was told to me, so I'm gonna tell it to you, without having a real idea of how to actually fix it. So this week, this one is probably going to be the most heaviest one because we saved some of the big targets for last, and they're going to be targeted towards organizations. So the first one we're going to talk about is pray about it. And the interesting about all these phrases is that they're all pretty much the same phrases, is just worded differently and involves a different reason. Pray about it also can be take it to God, or Jesus got you, or go to church. And there's not a whole, and with that, it's almost like when people say that, there's not, once again, what are the steps to getting there? Yes, I take it to God. Yes, I take it to Jesus. Yes, I go to church. But what are the steps to actually fix what's going on. And I feel like one of the things reasons why we say that, at least in my experience of the church, is because of that's all we've had since slavery. We didn't have a whole lot not going for us. We didn't have a whole lot of resources. And the only thing that was really willingly given to our oppressors, our masters, was religion. So that was historically, that's the places we go to for, where family is together, we're dancing, we're singing, we're uplifting, we're giving resources. The preacher is seen as a form of leadership. And even today, preachers, pastors are seen as a form of leadership through politicians, through the community, et cetera, et cetera. So that was, because that's the only resource we naturally had, we felt that's all that we need to get through, because you just do what you have. Just like why the poet said on the art showcase, we season our food to make it taste good, because all we had was the leftover pig, the bad food that we really shouldn't supposed to eat, make and do what we have. So my question to my colleagues is, do you feel like, do you feel like, has there been any progress in the church in dealing with mental health? I've vaguely seen different church organizations start the conversation, but do you feel like there's been any advancements on talking about mental health and actually giving people resources to people who deal with mental illness? And how is it?
I don't go to church anymore. I don't belong to a church. I haven't been in an organized religion since I was about 19 years old. But I will say this in defense really quick. There used to be a time when a lot of ministers had degrees in things like psychology and in counseling. And they had gone to, they didn't just go to divinity school. They also went to college, and they received degrees in different types of social subjects. And so there was a time when ministers, and you went to slavery, and I'm not necessarily in that time, but during the 60s and 70s, a lot of ministers were counselors. They had been certified in some type of way to be counselors. So I want to say that to say there is, I don't know that they dealt directly with mental illness as much as just counseling people through whatever the situation was, marriage counseling and you know, those types of things. But also when people were experiencing really difficult times. And there are people who still see their ministers in and so because you go to a minister, you may just have the type of problem that you just did not severe, which is what a minister is supposed to be as well. It may not be something so traumatic that you have to see a therapist. So I think I say that to say that I think people have to be comfortable and being able to be vulnerable where they are. And I don't ever remember a time when church wasn't, when ministers weren't that way. Now, a church congregation may be different from a minister. You know so the congregation may have these sort of wide, broad, take it to the church, pray about it, I got you, you know, without fully, because they're not learned in any type of social structure, right? Or social discipline. What they fail, I think, as congregations may fail to realize is that God's giving you tools, right? Whether that's a therapist, whether that's a minister, whether that's the support group, your own ability to go inside. There are people who are able to do that and don't have to speak with anybody who's objective. So I think we should probably, I think there are some ministers who deal with mental health. It doesn't necessarily mean that traditionally it's what the congregation would advise. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So it's more of an issue of congregation, not necessarily the leaders themselves.
I think it's just the tradition of congregations in churches. I don't think that means that there aren't ministers necessarily. Or now, I have friends that go to churches where they have different types of support groups and things like that, and they have professional groups. So I think it's happening. I think I wouldn't know because it's not a place I would go. But I don't think those two things have a whole lot to do with what somebody says to you, because we're kind of saying church, right? And really, I don't hear that in church. I hear that on Facebook. Girl, pray about it. Well, that's not the church. There may be someone who is religious.
And so right.
People, right. So I think that we have to be kind of careful to say the construct of the church may not necessarily be supporting or not supporting something as much as the tradition of Black religious people who are used to saying things like pray about it. I hear it all the time. I ain't been in church in 25 years.
Let me say this. I think there is a loaded answer to the question. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? I think there's a loaded answer to the question, and I agree with Dawn. There's a difference between religion and a religious person. And so the first thing I would say is those echoes of pray about it, God got you, are said to a group that don't understand. And let me say that, so don't massacre me, because I can tell my son I want steak all day long. TJ, I want steak when I get home. But if he doesn't know how to make the steak, then what I'm gonna get, right? I say that to say this. We say that a lot, but we don't necessarily we assume that people know the steps to take to do, because the word says faith without works is dead. So it's more than just pray about it. It's take care of yourself. You know what I'm saying? The word says, now unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that I may ask or think. But I have to first believe that he can. So we say a lot of things that we don't back up. And I'm just, again, I think I'm coming in on defense of the church. I do believe there is a lot of error in statements that are made. I have a friend who is a Christian mental health counselor. Shameless plug. I don't know if we're doing this. I'm sorry, Don, if I'm going to do something wrong. But a Sound Mind Counseling, Dr. Chantel Thomas, is a Christian counselor. So there are things in the church. I also believe that the church of old did a real good job of we just going to talk about everything right here, right now, because as a people, we didn't have anywhere else to go. During the time of a Tuskegee experiment, we weren't trying to walk in no doctor's office because we didn't know what they was getting ready to do to us. Who we did trust was the man with the collar who was sweating that talked to us every Sunday for 6 hours. That's who we did trust, right? And so I think there was more of an investment and time taken to approach those people in the congregation holistically. And so it was a holistic approach. We wanted to make sure you were fed, you had shelter over your head, that your relationships were intact, and that your mind, body, and soul were well. Having said that, as humans, disagree or agree, I'm just giving you the theological perspective on this. We are three parts. We are mind, we are spirit, and we are soul. We are body, spirit, and soul, excuse me. And so at any time, if any one of those is seared, severed, cracked, charred, whether it's through abuse, abandonment, rejection, whatever, then it falls out into the other two. So not everything that we see manifesting is necessarily a spiritual thing, but it has spiritual effects. And I think this new age of everything getting done fast and quick, we don't slow down to recognize the right symptoms to give the proper diagnosis, to do the proper work to get healed. I think we every time something happens, so laugh at me. Every time something wrong with you, what y'all drink? We drink Verner's ginger ale because we swear to God it kills. Verner's ginger ale cures everything. It ain't Canada Dry. It ain't Seagram's. It's Verner's ginger ale cures everything. You laughing because y'all.
No, because it's Canada Dry on this.
Mo, am I lying? No. When your stomach upset, what you drinking?
I have ginger ale down there. Sure.
But I made now, baby, it has to be burners. It used to have a little pirate man on it. But I say that to say this. We try to give a cure-all to things that we don't take the time to understand. You know how they used to say, feed the fever and starve the cold, or starve the cold and feed the fever, or whatever. You have to take time, and I don't think we take enough time nowadays because we so quickly dismiss people in our busy lives, and that dismissal creates more harm than good. You can't just hear what people are saying. You can't just watch what they're doing. You have to look at what they ain't doing and what they ain't saying to get a better, a bigger picture. The person that's always telling me they're all right, then my follow-up question is, well, what's going to make you great? How are you? I'm good. Go ahead, Dawn. I'm sorry.
I was going to see if I can just kind of take it back to the conversation about the church. I think sometimes we give Black people a bad shake with that because we like the church don't do. Guess what? There's no culture of people who do not have a God, and who do not trust that God, and who do not trust the person that is teaching them or guiding them in that vein. There's no, in all of them, if he doesn't have the education to help you with trauma, he may maybe churches they should have resources for people, like Regina just shouted out our girl. There should be in the directory at the church a list of places people can go for food, where they can go for housing, where they can go.
That's what needs to be in the church bulletin. That's what needs to be in the church bulletin.
That's missing. But I think we beat up on ourselves a little bit when it comes to church, because Muslims trust their faith. They go to their imam. Am I saying that correctly? Catholics go to their priests. In South Asians or Indians, whomever, I know they're a shaman.
Monks. Shaman, monk. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So people trust people with their spirit. I don't necessarily think that people go to church for mental health. I don't think they go to their minister for mental illness. I don't think they realize for that. Their mental illness, and they're going to their minister for spiritual healing, or their imam or whomever, or for spiritual healing. So, and I thought about that today when I saw the first question. I thought, it's interesting to me because we're the only people that do that. We're the only people that's like, fuck the church. Church ain't. I've never heard a Muslim say, to hell with the mosque, ever. I know plenty of traditional, when I'm talking about 5%ers, I've never heard them say that. We're the only ones who do that. The church did something to us. Maybe they didn't do enough. Maybe that's how we can have that conversation. But, I don't think I ever heard a Catholic person say, man, my priest, he don't care nothing about me. I just don't.
I think we did
an unfair assessment.
Well, hold on.
I don't disagree.
Hold on a second. Let's give Mo a chance to speak because she has something to say.
So I was in church for about 15 years. I'm a licensed minister. I have not practiced in a long time, have not been in fellowship with a particular church, even though my faith is still very strong. I think what happened, what I saw over the years, the shift with deliverance ministries, when they changed church from just going to church to, okay, now these ministries have deliverance ministries and really, really flow in a prophetic, or which is, God using you, you're this mouthpiece, and you're giving a prophetic word, you're back to the people, you're a message to the people. When that started emerging, so many things just was thrown off, because all of a sudden we were into this thought of, oh, I'm going to go over here to this church because they have a deliverance ministry. Okay, but what's the sustaining deliverance? What's the follow-up behind that? I think I mentioned that before in another podcast. We will pray about it and we might feel good this week, but who is following up next week to say, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And having the programming in-house that we need for the people in order to manage that type of ongoing healing. And that's just, that's the only thing that I don't care for. I don't care for, because I'm an outreach person. Even though I'm not in the church, I'm very, very much tied to outreach and helping in the healing process. So that's what we got to get back to is, you know, then they teach you, because I remember even with myself, I'll just be real transparent. Like I remember when I fell from church, you know, I came to my pastor ahead of time, like my relationship with God is not the same. I'm not going to be preaching or handling the word because I got to back up. There's a relationship, there's something going on, a shift. And I had a pastor tell me, you know, you're needed for the people. Put on a face, basically, is what he said. Just go out there. You gotta pretend, because there's an anointing on your life to be able to move and do certain things. And that's the only thing that I don't like, is that sometimes I feel that we're forced to pretend. And that's why you hear a lot of these religious leaders, especially recently, have been falling and being exposed on a great level. It's because that was just the thing. If you still able to make everybody shout and scream and you're able to give a prophetic word or whatever, people still held you to this high esteem when the relationship just isn't there. The gift comes without repentance, so you're able to use it still. So that's just my take. So it's not an attack on the church, but I just think they need to do more, like Don was saying. If it was back in the day, there were more people that actually were certified and had training. That needs to continue.
You know, it's interesting you say that, Don. In the last, Mo, in the last 20 years, we've lost from the church what some of us may have considered some goats from the church. When Zachary Timms, and I don't know if you know who he was the pastor in Florida. When he was found dead, my heart broke. And this is why it broke. And I'm going to piggyback on what you and Don are saying. It's because there were people around him who saw the addiction and the problem and did nothing. Because he was the man of God. The church is the biggest hospital there is. It's supposed to be. And we confuse the gift and humanity. And we have to stop doing that. We have to stop confusing gift and humanity. Yes, they can say it, but has anybody ever stopped to think that they deliver the way they deliver so strong because they're in the fight themselves? Has anybody? You can't talk about what you don't know, right? And so Eddie Long broke my heart. However he died, you know, that's going to go down to the walls what he really died of. But these are men that we held in high esteem. Jamal Bryant, we hold him I'm talking about those in the church. We love to hear him minister a word. It is right. It is on time. It is, in fact, the word is, if you're Christian, the word is infallible, but he has an issue. And we have a problem in the church separating the gift and the human. Whether it's in the pulpit or the pew, you have to separate the two, because your gift oftentimes, even though it comes without repentance, the gift also comes with challenges that you have. And we can't think just because someone can preach a word or because someone is at church every week that they don't have something they need. Don, you made the comment, you said, you know, people don't come to church looking for mental health assistance necessarily. And I think they do, but this is how they say it. When Sister Green comes every 6 months and she in a new relationship, and this man, and she in the 6th relationship with a man beating her, we got a mental health issue going on here. But we're not dissecting it that way to see, why does she keep attracting the same people? What's broken that we can help her through? As Mo said, deliverance. That's how it manifests. But we so quick, fast, let's get in the pulpit, let's shake a mic, let's lay a hand, that we don't stop to assess. And that's all I was going to say.
And I'm glad that y'all answered that question, because I think separating the congregation, aka the community, from the idea and the title, because I feel like that's a societal thing of America, where I feel like when segregation ended, a lot of to get ahead, get that American dream of the pie affected us in how we deal with one another. And it made me when you said about Eddie Long, and was it Zachary White or Zachary Taylor was his name? Zachary Tim, Zachary Tim. That made me think of just DMX. That just made me think of him as a
Exactly.
So it comes,
and nobody considered him a minister, but he the job of a minister, I don't get mad at, is simply to empower and encourage those they are in front of. Exalt, edify, comfort, and give you some empowerment. Who did that better than Earl or X? Who, what? Every time we heard that dun, 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 we knew what it was. And we was like, yes, I'm going to get through the dirty, yes. Who?
Yeah. So I'm glad that it's separating the two, because it is a communal thing where we say to one another, because I don't think, it's not that we don't care. I don't think we have enough empathy for one another or even the time to understand what our fellow man is going through. So when we say things like take it to God before you, I think a solution would be for that is to, yes, take it to God, but let's take it to God together. What is the actual problem? And maybe find out, like even just yesterday, I won't say no names, but I had a real deep conversation with someone who was crying about a relationship they had with someone very close to them. And just having the conversation, even though I was helping them, for me, it put perspective in my own relationship. It was like, where and what areas do I fail my relationships? Not even in what they done. I'm already aware of what they done. How could I have contributed to these exchanges? And that communal effect can do a whole lot more if we learn to trust one another again. Somehow the trust was broken to where we're just not as communal to each other, and it becomes a soundbite. Everything has become soundbite. And going back to society where everything wants something quick and fast, it's almost like if you bring up Jesus, it's like, oh yeah, quick and fast. But they forget it's all the work you had to do to get to that point. If you look at it, I always tell people, if you're a Christian, I look at you no different than Jesus going up to the hill to get crucified. That was a long 3 days, but afterwards, you're reborn. That's my take on it.
You said, people don't know the work that it takes to get there. The funny part about it me is, like, sometimes when I hear it, and I think there are people who really think, like, if I just pray about it, it's gonna go away. And it's kind of like, I always thought prayer was supposed to be for understanding, right? It's meditation. That's all it is meditation. People call it what they call it in different areas of the world, right? But it's meditation, and you're supposed to, quiet yourself and quiet your inside, and what you were, I would think, coming into it to come out of it with some understanding of how to move forward. So I think sometimes it's even less than the work it takes to sort of get to the point where you can ask for that kind of help, as much as I imagine God is probably sitting. Don't laugh. But I imagine when God hears people saying that, he probably sitting up there like, so these people know that when they come to me, they got work to do, right? You know what I mean? Like, I'm being funny, but I'm being very serious. I don't know if you guys have ever spoke where the guy it's a flood in his town. The water is rising in his house, and he swims, he floats until the water's all the way up to his roof, and then he climbs, to his ceiling, and he climbs out and he gets on top of his roof, and the water is still rising, and the water is right up on his roof, and God sends, or not God, but a plane comes by, and he's like, no, don't worry about it. I prayed about it. Jesus coming. Tell the plane to go on about his business. In the little boat, they ride on by. He said, no, I got this, prayed about it. I look at the guy, we're good, right? And then he drowns. And he gets to heaven, and God he said, God, what happened? I prayed to you. He said, I sent you a boat and a plane. You know what I mean? So I imagine God sitting up in heaven like, here they go with this prayer stuff again. And I'm being good because he might curse. We don't know if God cussed or not, but I'm saying, hey,
if we all
with his toes, just tapping his toes, like they think they about to just pray and they know they got work to do. So I mean, I'm being funny, but serious.
But it's serious.
Pray about it is simply something, like you said, works without deeds, or prayer without deeds.
Faith without works. You know, Don, that's funny because I always sit and laugh when I pray. And this is how I start my conversation. You call it meditation. I call it having a conversation. And I go, you knew I was going to come to you and say this. I already know you knew this. you knew I was going to trip on this. You knew my mouth was going to be foul about that. So I ain't trying to make no excuses. You laughing, Mo, because you done said this before. I ain't trying to make no excuses. I just want this over as quick as possible because it's that kid. I'm that kid that you can get a whooping or you're going to go outside or you're going to be on punishment for a week. I ain't finna sit inside for a week. Just go on and whoop me so I can go back outside and play. You know what I mean? And so it's funny you say that because I'm sitting there like, I think God got a sense of humor for real. And I mean, I had a baby at 40. Of course he does. So I think we get so deep and make things so hard, and it just don't have to be that hard. It's just not that hard. It just really isn't. It requires, the hardest part is getting transparent with yourself and saying 3 words: I need help. 3 words. I need help. And quit thinking how many times people gonna get mad at you when you say it. If you are with someone that gets mad at you when you say it and you need it, then you with the wrong people. I don't know who that message was for, but yeah.
And I feel like that's a mirror image of being strong, being hard on yourself. I think because we're so used to taking so much. I said this in the last podcast. Being strong, it feels like there's no leaders around, so we're forced to lead. And I can attest to this because a lot of times while I'm so used to talking to people and being empathetic and being caring, because I was around people where there's nobody else to turn to. So you're forced to be that vessel. So it's also an inner conversation of saying, of being honest and transparent with yourself. Like, yes, I'm a prayer about it, but what are the things that I'm avoiding? Because I said it's a form of avoidance when other people say it. It's another thing to believe in ourselves to avoid the things that we are talking about.
I promise you, I believe God's sitting there going, if you ask me about this one more again, and you already know what you need to do, don't cut. And listen, this is my own interpretation. Don't judge me. He's so gracious. And he goes, why are you asking me about that again? You already know what it's going to take. It's going to take you, because some of us, watch this, so stupid, we'd rather deal with the pain, discomfort, and rejection as opposed to accepting what will happen if we let that go and walk a different direction. We're more afraid of the unknown than we are the mental spiral that we're in, not realizing that that discomfort only lasts for a minute and you grow every single day. You don't have to stay there. You don't have to stay there. You're choosing to stay there. And why am I saying you choose to stay there? Because there are too many examples in this here now today world between social media, TV, and podcasts like this that you see other people have done it. Once you've seen one person do it, your excuse is gone. Because there's the only difference between you saying I need help and the person who is now free or feeling better, living better, has a better self-actualization of themselves, is that they decided to come out of themselves. Because if you could do it yourself, you still wouldn't be there, right? Right. So you're going to have to go out and get some help, period. And it ain't going to happen. So let me say this, and I'm going to shut up. It may not happen the first time. It may not happen the 5th time. But it will eventually happen, because some of us are so deep, and it's so deep down in us that it's a peeling off effect. And every time you get a little closer. Every time you get a little closer. So don't think it didn't happen last time, so it ain't gonna happen this time. The last doctor didn't help me at all, so I'm not going to doctors no more. I'm gonna just burn sage and run through the house with it, and I'm gonna be better. Whatever. Every single time you get better. Burn sage, go to the pastor, go on the fast. I'm gonna hit it all. Chant, whatever. But every single time you get closer, and some of us have to realize how bad or how much or how deep rooted whatever it is. That's all I'm saying.
Do y'all think sometimes, though, that sometimes it's like, I know people that really are like people that you are talking about, Regina. And then I know people who are just full of drama. Ain't nothing wrong with them. They ain't had no trauma in their life. They just full of the need, the feeling.
Those are attention whores. Those are attention whores. Yeah, that's all.
Because here's why I say, this is why I feel like it can be, because I think that people who are really struggling with something, who have really been traumatized and are really struggling with it, they want to be better. Whether or not they can get there, like you said, the 5th time or the 10th time, it is they understand the struggle. They understand that they are in a struggle. They don't necessarily have to see a way out, but they are trying things. They are doing things. Whatever that is, right? I don't care what, if it's church, what guru, whoever, and whatever. There's a constant search, and because the inside of them wants that. And then I think that there are people, people who don't. I don't think nothing really wrong with them. I just think they like. That's just my opinion. I'm just saying, every day, God. You got 500 posts about, haters and men ain't and women ain't,
Oh my
so
God.
I don't think that's wrong with you. I think you enjoy stirring up the pot. You like being in the pot. The way, hook your ass on. That's all I got now. Go ahead. Next question. Right. We didn't beat that one up.
Yeah, I think we've had our fill today. I'm glad that we opened it up with church to distinguish a little bit. We kind of went off kilter, but that's kind of what happens on Back to Love. But in the most part, we stayed in the range. We was able to dissect really deeply another aspect of that conversation that I didn't expect. So it's all good. Oh, it's your twin is online. Anyways, the next thing we're gonna talk about is gonna be connected to organization, and this one I don't have a clear-cut answer. All I know is statistics. I ain't trusting no doctor. I ain't trusting going to no doctor. And we can just go down the list. Tuskegee experiment, Mississippi appendectomy, I don't know how to pronounce it. I can't speak today. Henrietta Lex, and just the overall medical mafia. I'm just gonna let y'all start it off, because I'm saying my ending quotes. I already said, first and foremost, one of my top things that came to my mind, because this is me personally, when I was able to distinguish that probably wasn't the case, but it's very convincing not for anyone not to want to go to the doctor going up here. And seeing films and TV shows and cartoons describing what would happen if you had some type of problem up in the head. So I think there's a lot of confusion and misunderstanding. And put your plates down, please. We can hear them in the background. Thank you. Thank you. Misinformation, dramatization that is just now I'm starting to see in movies get a little bit more comfortable, but it feels almost like a good amount of damage has been done that it's almost like you got to climb over that. Or just get off TV and do some damn research. Because a lot of people don't know about
that was going to be my answer. Like, listen, people, TV, YouTube, I don't know, whatever the hell else, it's entertainment. It's entertainment, and I get it. I mean, I guess it has to be. I mean, honestly, if you are getting your information from television or Facebook or YouTube or whatever else social median, not media, but median is out there, then I would say you might be clinical. I would say, and I'm not being funny. I would say that, you know, you may suffer from a little bit of paranoia or delusion or something of that ilk, because that's not where you should be getting your information, or your help. I mean, I guess I get it. I know, Tuskegee, I totally get it. But Tuskegee wasn't the medical industry. It wasn't doctors. Like, all doctor society, every doctor, that's the thing, right? You had a group of people who were interested in something, who were really scientists. And they were interested in the way syphilis affects the brain. Was it messed up? Absolutely.
So you don't have to use this brain, though. That's all I'm saying.
Were there probably doctors who administered the shot? Yeah, because scientists can't. You know, they don't have the license to administer a shot. I get that, but everything is not Tuskegee. It isn't. It just isn't. And it's like, all of that matters until it doesn't matter anymore, until you're sick. All that matters until you need a doctor. That's the truth. You think that the 85% of the people that sit in dialysis clinic that look like us, what are you on, Regina? Okay. Who look like us. You think all of them, none of them ever said, I ain't going to no doctor until they had to.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? So I think it's somewhat of a cop-out to say, I'm not going to the doctor because I'm having, whether it's a mental, physical, whatever issue. Because if your body needs it, you will go by will or force. Now, if you're having a mental issue and you break yourself and you have a psychotic break somewhere, you're going to the hospital anyway. You're going to the doctors anyway. You're going. Like, period. You know what I mean? Argue with the straitjacket. Debate that with the straitjacket. Like, I'm not being funny. So I'm saying, I think we have to, first of all, what I would advise everybody to do is not to watch the Tuskegee Airmen on television, but actually go and do some research about it. It had a lot to do, and even eugenics. People talk about eugenics all the time, although I believe eugenics is very true. But don't throw that stuff out as a cop-out. Like, actually go and read about it, and then you may see that your circumstance is not that circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
But really, Don, I don't disagree with what you're saying, Don, but I also can't blame people for feeling that way.
Mm-hmm. I do. I blame them 100. And the reason why is I posted a picture today of 12 Black doctors who are all therapists and psychologists, right? So
and that's great, but that still doesn't erase that the government let that happen.
Let me ask a question, and I'm not sure that that's exactly what happened. Again, I advise you all to really go read some books, go to the library, and not to Google, and really read about it.
No, I lived in Tuskegee, so I'm just saying, I lived there.
But yeah. The thing about it is that that's not the reason that people aren't. I don't believe that. I just don't believe that, because if that's the case, who are we afraid of? Are we afraid of the white doctors? Because every time people talk about eugenics, every time I talk about Tuskegee, they're talking about race. They're not talking about medicine. They're talking about what white people, ask Black people who believe this. They're talking about a group of white doctors. They never just say scientists. It's always a white, what they did to Black people. I'm not debating that it happened. It's history, right? But is our issue race or is our issue medicine? Because if
John,
it's medicine, there are tons of Black doctors. Wait a minute. There are tons of Black doctors, whether they're taking care of your physical or mental, who literally got into the field to help us combat that. So what issue are we having? Is it race or is it medicine? And so do we not trust once they become doctors, we can't trust them anymore? Is that what we're saying? Because
that might be, Don, and this is why. Because just a month ago, just 2 weeks ago, it wasn't even a month ago, there's a documentary on YouTube, and it's actual footage of 2 Black doctors, one that administered the syphilis and the other that was saying, don't administer the syphilis, and he didn't, and he didn't get funding and all of that. So that debate, I'm not following either way. I'm telling you, I get why people are saying what they say, but that interview on YouTube is huge because I can see why. It's almost like a Black person becoming a police officer, to be honest with you. It's the same feeling that people have, and it's real to them. It's real, and I can't negate that.
Well, I will respond to that actually as devil's advocate and angel investor. Devil's advocate in the sense of people using YouTube, because YouTube is a good resource if it's not for entertainment. We use entertainment in general as an escape route from our problems. I'm saying that not as a generalization. I watch TV to deal with my problems as a child. Now every child has basically TV on the phone with easy access with more channels than I had when we only had 6. So YouTube is useful if you're looking for the right things and ask for the right questions. Guess you need to go to the library too and do deeper research, because there's stuff on YouTube that is not available. There's stuff on YouTube that you cannot find in a book with history of research to study actually what happened to Tuskegee experiment, what exactly happened to Henrietta Lex and Mississippi Appin, I can't pronounce it. And I agree with you, Don, when you're saying that I feel like we do need to support people in positions that are trying to genuinely help us. Not every police officer that is Black is with the agenda of killing Black people. There are some that are trying to make change, but the system from the inside. And the same thing with doctors. I agree when we have people who want to understand and study. Regina, you're making a little noise.
Yeah, and we can't see you on Facebook, Regina, because you don't have your camera on. So I just want you to know that when I go to the page, you're not showing up. You're just showing up in the Zoom. Go ahead. So,
because someone had made this point in my research, and I totally agree. When we have doctors that look like us, that you know of, especially in your own community, that you know of, that when they said, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a mental health doctor, why would you want to be that? Because they see a problem and they're trying to understand and be a part of the solution by being in those positions, so that when you go to doctors, you know who you're looking at, yourself. So we do need to have a better trust, rebuild back that trust, and looking for our community who are in positions to help, and look to them. Now, that doesn't mean that every Black face you see is going to be a part of the solution. There has to be a vetting process, again, research, but it helps to know that there are people out there trying to help. On that note, I will say, me personally, I don't necessarily trust the system itself when administering certain things. And you're asking me that I should take certain things to put in my body. That's just me. This ain't even a black thing. This is me comfortability thing. I don't necessarily trust a system that has lied a lot, that doesn't care about its citizens too much. Now, it's not saying that they want to exterminate us all. They need us. They need us more than we need them. But I have to question what you're asking me to do. So I will question all of any of that, so I can understand anybody else hesitance from going to doctors from all of this evidence. But that is a good question that you brought, Don, about, is it really the medicine or is it about race? Because that mostly
because the reality of it is medicine has done some good things too. We can only see, I say not YouTube, even for information, because I think it's as biased as news. I don't go to the news for my information. News is entertainment to me as well. And if I hear something on the news, then like anything else, I'm getting ready to start digging into some research.
Now, I agree with that as well.
What's really being stated there. So the thing about YouTube is it's people's opinion still. It's still going to have a spin. As if Black people don't have a motive.
Well, if you say that, Dawn, though, just to be fair, books are written from a perspective too, though. Books are written from a perspective too, though. I said books are also written.
Let me say, you went to Warner Hills. Don't do that. You went to Warner Hills.
I'm just saying, Dawn. I'm just playing the advocate right now.
Hold up.
I'm playing the advocate.
The problem is people think that they're researching, and what they are doing is they're going to look for information that validates what they already believe is true. And the point of research is to read a bunch of different opinions from a bunch of different sources and to make educated conclusions about what you read. So you shouldn't be reading something just because it's what you believe. So everything that you read advocates what you already believe. Well, that's easy. That's easy. That's not research. So I think, let me say this, and I'll be done with the whole hospital thing or doctor thing. The thing is, I think that there was a time when we were like, why ain't no Black doctors? Why ain't no Black lawyers? Well, I'll be too goddamn. They went and did it. And then we decided we ain't messing with them. They're part of the system. That's my point. That is my point, Black people. And I'm saying dig deep. All I'm saying is dig deeper. If it can be, we love to talk about the bad things that medicine has done, but we act as if medicine has done no good things, as if it's literally done nothing good for people, and that's just not true either. So I think in terms of this mental health podcast, if we continue to have that belief about medicine in general or the field in general, then psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, y'all go on and quit because they ain't coming to y'all. Go on, just find a whole nother profession. Just go on and do that because they're not coming. And then what's your option? So when you say get help, from who? If you don't trust them, from who?
I agree with what
you're coming back up. Trust keeps coming back up. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yes. I agree with what Don was saying. I think a lot of it is just we are irresponsible a lot of the times. Like we won't even get a primary care doctor and just go once a year to get a physical, blood work and things like that, and keep track of what's going on with our body, so that if something happens and we end up in an emergency room situation, that they even have somebody to call and say, okay, this is my patient. I've noticed X, Y, and Z or whatever over the years. So I think we need to do better and not be afraid and go to the doctor. And don't be afraid of doctor bills either, and which we'll probably get to that, and then I can attest to that. But there's financial aid. There's ways to get 80% of your bill totally paid, even once insurance pays what they have to pay, or if you don't have insurance. So there's no excuse. But I do want to talk about the fear a little bit. I listened to Yavanka Hall, who is the Northeast Ohio Black Healthcare. I think she's the person over that, or she definitely works with them, because I sat in on a panel for people with lupus, and she was talking about the fear that we have not just being over the Tuskegee experiment. So this is her information from a slide that she had about historical experimentation. She was saying in 1830, there was the Baltimore resurrectionists that lasted 70 years. In 1845, it lasted for 4 years, was gynecological surgical experiments on enslaved women of African-American descent by Dr. Marion Sims. Then 1927, there was a Laos Station Indian radiation experiment on Black children. 1932, there was the 40 years of the Tuskegee syphilis experiment on Black men. And then 1951, Henrietta Lacks, the Black woman, I believe, isn't she the one they took her genes? Mm-hmm. And yeah. And then 1960 is 11 years of UC radiation study with the Black adult cancer patients. And 1993 is Baltimore lead paint study. So, I mean, we've had like years and years of history. Like, we might not have personally lived it. I was born in 74. So none of this, well, most of this, all but one, was before I was even born. But when you have such a history of experiments and things being done on your people, then you do kind of have a feeling like, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm scared to put my son in certain experiments and things that they have at Children's Hospital because, okay, who's to say that that's not one of these experiments? But does that mean I won't take him to the doctor? Of course not. You gotta know where to draw the line and do your research, like you were saying.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do we know, and I think I'm going to look this up, and I think I'll post this in the thread if I find any information after this. Do we know if any of these things have ever happened to anyone else? Do we know? And the reason I'm asking that question is we don't know because we didn't look for it. And it goes back to my original is when you want something to validate how you feel, you will gravitate to what is saying that. I'm not saying that it's ever happened that we're the only people. We could potentially very well be. I don't know. I'm asking a question. Do we know if research has ever happened on little people? Do we know if research or studies or anything has ever happened to white people with blonde hair or brown hair? Do we know? Has it ever happened to Asians? Has it ever happened to Hispanics? Has it ever
Asians, Native Americans, and Jewish people? I know they've all had experiments done.
So I'm not saying, listen, I'm not saying to you all that the medical field is awesome. They do everything perfectly and they've never hurt us. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that I think that there are people in the industry who are in the industry for the purpose of making sure we have a safe place to go. And what we have decided is we're writing the entire industry off. And I think that is a bad move when we're talking about healing ourselves, whether it's our mind or our bodies or whatever. Right? The funny part about it is people don't have a lot of trust in the church, but you still have more Black people going to the church. If we go back and talk what we just talked about, Black people have lost faith in that, but there are still a huge amount of people who absolutely believe in it. They go to it, they do that, right? They may not even be getting the help that they need there. We just talked about that. But somehow that remains a staple.
Okay.
People talk about Black church hurt all the time. I just literally read a whole post from a girl about church hurt. But we haven't decided as a whole that it's a whole construct that we can't trust. We may say they don't do enough. We haven't determined that we can't trust them. And there are people in the ministry, like there are officers, like there are Black doctors, like there are Black psychologists who care about them. And they are out there. Find them.
Mm-hmm. True. Yes, taking responsibility for the boundary line is what you said, Mo, is very important, because only you know your body, for real. You know your family. What would you ain't gonna let somebody tell you how to dress your baby. You ain't gonna let somebody tell you how to take care of your body. So start there. You know something is wrong, look for the right sources. Like it's estimated it takes a while before you find the right doctor in mental health. It's double being a Black person. So you're gonna have to look. Like I've been through counselors, therapists, um, psychiatrists, psychologists, life coaches, and I'm still learning. I ain't even hit the goal mark yet. I'm still finding out you still got a lot more work to do. Like it's tiring. It is tiring, but you have to you have to how willing do you want it to be done? And that I don't say that with a grain of salt either, because it's tired. Like I said, it's fucking tiring. But I forgot what I was gonna go to, but I am gonna say, leading to that, distrust and fear part. We're still dealing with that now with black, the issue of having babies. Black babies are a higher risk of dying, and now we're having more birth doulas. I honestly think that's a great thing, and I'm basing this off of a quote I heard from a audiobook. They said, artistry is like having a child. You think it's impossible, but until you start thinking about women been having babies with or without help for 50 million years. So, and trusting people to do it at home in the comfort of your own house when we didn't have hospitals for real. They did it. So obviously trust if you can trust somebody to take care of having your child at home, doing the research, and you understanding what that is all about, then same can be said in other areas, mental health, et cetera, et cetera. Just learning the research and understanding what you're getting into. So I think that's important. And then when we have people that are wanting, that ain't even looking like us, that are saying information that resonates and is information where you can backtrack, listen. Not everybody is part of the Black agenda that don't look like us. And I'm gonna say this because I've been struggling with this with my own. I've be very careful, especially on the entertainment part, because YouTube, that literally means you're the tube, you're the TV. So everybody has an opinion, and they can vocalize it. We're vocalizing our opinion. It just ain't on YouTube. But it makes me think, how many of these people that say they're a part of the cause are just saying statements and building up on emotion and not building up you information? So how much of what we're hearing about what the man has done to us is actually true? And even if it is true, how much of it is exaggerated just to get a response out of you?
Well, the question then is, how much of it are we going to fix? I don't doubt that we came here as chattel property, and you treat your property like you own it. I have no doubt whatsoever that we've gone through hell in this country. I think that's all that you ever talk about, though, and you don't offer any solutions. And just to bring up solutions, I posted in the thread for anyone who is interested, a link to a group of Black psychologists and psychiatrists and therapists. I also posted on the Back to Love page, if you scroll down a couple of messages back. Yeah, I don't know. I just think we have to dig deeper. It worries me a little bit that we have become so afraid of everything. So I guess the question for me is, what is the option? If we are not, I sit on the board for Cradle Cincinnati, not on the board, but I sit in a group of people who attend Cradle Cincinnati. Cradle Cincinnati is a group of educators and also nurses. They're mostly nurses who are having discussions about the infant mortality rate in the Black community. And it's not because they go to the hospital and the doctors are killing their babies. The infant mortality rate in the Black community is because of lack of health care. And so many of the of healthcare. They're not taking any type of prenatal vitamins. They don't have any care prior to going to the doctor. And so their babies are being born with really low birth rates. To be quite honest with you, smoking is a big issue. Cigarettes while pregnant. So the infant mortality rate is not, I think I wanted to clear that up because I think what happens is people are like, have your baby at home. Have your baby at home if you want to. I'm not saying that. But it's like, have your baby at home because the white doctors take the baby out and kill it. That's not what's happening. It is an issue. It's a medical issue, but it's a medical issue because of lack of access to care. So let's just, separate those. Those two things, I mean, three things really quickly. But if you're interested, there is a source there in the comments. Doctors that you may find that you can trust. So.
All right, and I'm gonna read the comments. Cora Hamilton, in response to, I guess he was responding to your question you posted in the chat. What do y'all think is the church failing the mental health of Black people? Cora Hamilton says, I feel that people lack confidence in telling what their issues are due to judgment, so they suffer in silence or talk to people that are going through the same thing when they need help. Trust. Ty also responds, it's a lot we don't know. Intuition will tell you things not even a book can tell you. Spirit knows all. And I would say I will respond to Cora, and I have that same exact sentiment. It's almost like hurt people flock to hurt people because there's a level of understanding there where if you bring it up to normal crowds, it's almost like, I don't know, self-esteem thing, a pride thing, where there's no understanding. So I do agree with that statement there. And I feel like spirit, mind, body, soul, all that needs to be aligned. I think you should listen to your spirit, but you also should listen to your body and listen to logic. If you hear something that you know is piquing more interest to grab it, you should obtain it. Because I think too many people fall into that trap of lean towards just one thing and forget about the rest of the whole thing. So I think a solution should be for the doctor thing is research and building trust in those who have done the research and figure out what they're saying, hear out what they're saying, and decide for yourself. At the end of the day, the decision comes down to you. So the next one leads into what Mo was talking about. I ain't got no time or money for that. And that comes down to resources. And this is not necessarily talking about, Cincinnati, even though there's poverty in Cincinnati. I really think more when I hear this more impoverished areas where there is no help with healthcare. There's not a lot of opportunities for the people that live in the areas, and crime is rampant and it's just very desolate. So I can't, fix that problem because I'm not there. But that is an issue that can't be avoided, that people deal with on a daily basis. So y'all would probably be more vested in this question. What would be the solution for that? Not just even I think the main thing is getting resources to those communities or providing information to get those resources.
Particularly to help me. I'm sorry if I missed the beginning of.
It may not even be necessarily just money, but just information. Because like I'm putting myself on the spot here. So on the Embracing the Showcase, artist showcase, I kind of went overboard on the food because I counted 9 people were supposed to be in the building. And at the end of the day, everybody was looking at me like so much love. But Don was the only one looking at me like, what the? Because I didn't know how to count how many chips
sorry. It was just so much food. I was just shocked. And then when you told us how much I just couldn't believe that. I just was overwhelmed. I apologize.
No, because it made me honestly think. I was just, granted, I was moving around the whole time, so I was running on just fumes. I ain't had nothing to eat or anything like that. But still, I never done a house party before, so I had no information. And I think a lot of problem is going. Another key point is understanding. We're not educated on how we can. It's not just about get a job and get a 401k and retire. No, it's about taking that money and making it work for you and make passive income and other values and make other values out of things that we do on a daily basis that we're not told about and educate. So I feel like education is a big thing. And I do feel like money should be talked about because there's a lack of in areas and places where it's not profitable for the people that is there. I forget what where I heard this from. I think it was a school system or something like that. They had said that they're not putting money into those schools because they're I think it was actually you, Don, who said this. Not putting money in these schools because they're not going to make no money from it. And that's a issue too. What bringing the attention that these are people just like in the suburbs areas. They have just as much potential. And then somebody else has said this: a person who is excellent at math isn't given the opportunities to be a great mathematician or given the resources to get scholarship stuff. What does he end up doing? He starts flipping bricks, selling drugs, all these potential gifts that other people have. They're making it so just to make ends meet, just to make bottom line. And I feel like we need to build solutions to make that more possible. Of course, here in Cincinnati, we have a lot more opportunities here. I can gratefully say, like, there's a lot more resources, a lot more help, but I don't feel like on a larger scale, there is really no help. So where do we even start that conversation for people that it's a legitimate response? I don't have the resources. I don't got the time. I ain't got the money. I'm just bottom line. This is bottom line. That's all I'm focusing on.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think we live in a country that invests in education or, who kind of sees a certain things as socialism, and so it's become some kind of bad word. I don't know if I know where the resources are to assist, and we are specifically talking about, just to clarify, not going to the doctor because we don't have, not checking your mental health because you don't have money for that, right? Is that where we are?
Mm-hmm.
Regina keeps getting kicked out of her service. I'm sorry she's popping in and out, guys, but
and also in relation to the time part, I want to clarify, we're always running around trying to make ends meet because we don't have time to do the babies, got to take them to school, we got to go to work, we got the Bible study, et cetera, learning ways of making time. We can care of that pretty easy, but I think the money part is a bigger issue because again, I think this is you saying that you meet them where they are, then they'll listen to everything else that you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I know when I work in the industry that I work in, we try to meet the family's immediate needs before we can really start helping them set goals, for quality of life, to improve their quality of life and that kind of thing. They don't really want to hear those things until you can take care of their basic needs. And to be honest with you, I work for Head Start, and it is a preschool early childhood education program, and many of our children are coming in with cognizant, emotional, social delays. Lots of our kids, lots of them. time is an issue in terms, so we provide the resources so that if these children have speech delays, if they have cognizant delays, if they have social emotional delays, we connect families with resources, and the outcomes, our outcomes are really, really poor. And our outcomes are poor because families don't take, the mothers and fathers are not taking their children to these, to get the assistance that they need. And we've done about everything we know to do. We have talked about the importance of correcting cognizant delays early, because by the time they get in the third grade, if those delays aren't, they're tests. I mean, we talk about these things. We talk about things like attendance and the need for them to be there. It's just trying to get medicals and immunizations on the kids. And it's not that they haven't taken them to do it. It's that they haven't made time to literally just go pick up contact the doctor and tell them to send it to us, like that kind of stuff. Part of my job is process improvement and quality improvement, and trying to look at processes and meeting families where they are to get them the resources that they need. Many of our 85% of our families are below the poverty guidelines, so they're receiving medical. It's not a medical issue. It's not a money issue. It literally is, oh, I forgot, I didn't take them, or they just don't see the importance of it. They just don't. And I don't know that there's a process that can fix that. I honestly don't know, because I've been here almost 8 years. I don't know if there's a process that can fix that. It's really hard to educate people who won't take the time to sit down and listen to it. It's very difficult. I don't know if somebody else has a solution to those. The adult in me wants to say, but you got time to go to the white party. The inside of me. Now I know that's not fair. I've never said that to a client. Let's just be really clear. I don't deal with the client's face trying to figure it out. So how to trickle down. So, but the human part of me says we make time for things that are important, that we understand the importance of. And we work really hard to help them understand the importance of these things, So there's a gap somewhere happening, and I don't know. I mean, I just put that on the table in case anybody wanted to discuss it. I have no idea how to fill that gap. If you got an answer.
I think part of the gap, Dawn, back in the day when we were coming through school, there was this class called home economics. And home economics wasn't just about cooking. It was about a life prep skill. I don't think when we see things and we talk about difficulties and paying for things, and I know people are going, well, what does that have to do with anything? Here's what it has to do with it. Because when you learn how to plan and when you learn how to forecast and you look at your family and okay, I can't go to the white party this week. I'm going to have to wait till next month to go. I'm going to have to go to Final Friday next month because I might be a little tight for whatever I need this week, or baby needs braces or whatever it is. I think those skills and those types of things that we used to get mad when they put it for us to do, when we had to do it. I think those types of basic skills are missing now. And a whole generation has missed that skill set. For those of us who are older, your age or my age or older, I think that we have somehow or another adopted this, it's about time, you owe me this mentality. And I think that's a dangerous place to be. I think the fix for it is what we always say, is reading something, looking at resources, and not being afraid to ask for help. It doesn't mean you're not a woman. It doesn't mean you're not a man if you don't ask for help. You're more of a woman. You're more of a man when you put your family first and you're concerned about their wealth, their health, and their welfare. That's what I think. I think a basic skill set is no longer being taught to these. I don't even know what generation it is now. I'm old, forgive me. But I think that basic skill set is not being taught. You know, people ain't in the kitchens with their grandmas no more cooking like we did. You know what I'm saying? You ain't learn how to make they're not learning how to cook a meal and figure out how to make it last for tonight and tomorrow. And then if I do this, I'm okay till I get a little money in my money. They don't know how to do that. They don't know how to make casseroles anymore. They don't know this stuff. They don't know the value of having breakfast for dinner. They don't know that, you know? Because sometimes all you got in the house is pancake mix and syrup. And you know what? We're going to eat tonight and we're going to have fun. We're going to light some candles and we're going to have breakfast for dinner. You know, they don't know that. And that's a shame, because not only was that about saving money, but that was some of the most amazing family time I had growing up. In my grandmama's house with her 8 kids and me as the first grandbaby, doing that kind of stuff. I've heard so much stuff at the dining room table, at the kitchen counter, and it was life skill stuff that I still use today. Mm-hmm. And that's what's missing. So you can get all the money you want in the world, but if you got a hole in your pocket, if you have a hole in your spirit, it's just going to fall out. You know? How many different ways you ever ate a spaghetti sandwich? Because I didn't eat a spaghetti sandwich.
You know, it's interesting. People talk about spaghetti.
You ain't ate a spaghetti sandwich, Mo.
This is a little bit off the subject, a tad bit, but people talk about
it's economics. I'm talking about stretching money. I was on the subject. I was talking about stretching money.
People, and then we got to get back to the subject, but real quick, we're talking about really teaching people how to budget for the things that they want to do, including things like, really, we need to be giving them resources to help them pay for mental health services if they need them. They are out there. But I just want to make really a quick, funny, real quick. People talk about the Midwest because they put spaghetti in their chili and they call it. That's you know, it was stretching the meal though. If you put pasta in the spaghetti and in the chili,
you got full fast.
Spaghetti is not the same thing. They're not made the same way. Spaghetti is spaghetti. No. And chili with noodles was chili noodles. It was chili, and you put pasta in. They don't taste the same. They wasn't the same. It was about stretching the meal. it made it last.
Exactly.
That's all. I wanted you just brought back memories.
But that $20 you saved from not going out the next night was a $20 copay to take baby to the doctor when you needed it. Is my point.
And that's
like
why
I said, a lot of times I'm not sure if it's money or resources. I really think it's educating people about why some of it is important, right? You know, when we do our health checks with the kids and we do lead testing and they get screenings, you know, all the shots, you know, everything. We still have families who will not put their children on a learning plan when they have learning delays, because there's a stigma behind having an IEP. But we try to tell them is that if we can put them on a learning plan at 2 years old, right? Because he's behind all the other 2-year-olds here. If we could put him on a learning plan by the time he's 2, by the time he's in the 2nd grade, he won't need it. And
you're not talking to me because, you know, my son has Asperger's. And so that to me, to get him.
Is not the resources being unavailable. The hard part is, or not even the money, because this is free to them because they're in Head Start. They literally get it for free. They don't have to pay anything. Head Start. The federal government pays Head Start to do these things. It is educating them about why it's important. I think that is the conversation that we have when you say there are things not happening for us in the community. I don't think it's a lack of time or money. All the time. I know money is an issue, but if you're living below the poverty level, you get medical and you get basic medical. You can take your child to the doctor. Period. There's no one. You might not be able to get cash assistance. You might not be able to get child care vouchers, but you can still get medical and food stamps everywhere in every state. And if you qualify for that, then you qualify for all of these other free services available to you. I don't think it's a lack of, because we can educate them and we have. It is getting them to understand why it's important. How do we do that?
Yes. I think they just need to push a little bit. Just like you don't take your kids to school or make sure that they're there. There's truancy. There needs to be different levels of this is medical neglect before it gets to 241 kids coming in and taking your child. It should be, okay, you're whatever amount of time behind on immunizations. You know, you have a child that has issues and you're not following up with your doctor. That needs to be pushed so the people will realize like this is serious, that it's important, and that it is neglect if you don't uh, keep up with it. You know, I won't give personal, well, it's personal, but I'm not going to give the person. But I know somebody who had a child 1.5 years old that weighed 15 pounds. There has to be something before you get to the point where, okay, this is a case of being malnourished and this person is going to jail. There has to be something even before that that says you're not doing enough. It's something we need to get in. We need to get caseworkers in the home. We need to make sure there's food there, whatever. And so it's just changes in policies, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what Gino had mentioned earlier about this idea of you owe me for a long time, I think that's a bad idea, especially even now with technological advances from a phone to make money. There's ways. And I think the overall mentality I think of that is they haven't cared for this long. They have showed, you have believed all these stories that they haven't cared this long. Do you think they're gonna care now? And it makes me think of the quote, if you give someone the mechanism to feed you, you also give them the mechanism to starve you. So I wouldn't even try to even entertain that type of mentality. And it is education, and that will be the hardest part, getting people to want to listen. And that's really what we're doing now is talking about giving people the education in our own. We're not backed by anything. We're not doing this for ulterior motive. We just care. So it's just keep on saying it until, as we said, individually, keep saying help even after the 5th time, even after the 10th time, even after the 20th time until you get it. It's just very difficult. And I don't like to say the word hard, because the word hard, I'm eliminating this from my vocabulary. I eliminate saying this is too hard. I just say it's difficult, because difficulty gives room for possibility. We also need to change our verbiage of how we deal with ourselves. Therefore, we can better deal with other people. So that's part of it. Finding the resources, doing the research of getting help that you need. And I think there's a good point, because I didn't even know that you can get certain assistance if you're below the poverty line. I thought poverty was poverty. So
the poverty guidelines are set by the federal government. They're pretty low, to be honest with you. A family of a parent and a child cannot make more than $18,000, or they would be considered above the poverty guideline. They would be considered in what they call the 101 to 131, 101% to 131%, and they consider that to be above poverty. We know that that's not true, but every agency that provides services free of charge follow the federal guideline. The federal guideline is republished every year in January. It becomes effective in January. It usually comes out about December of every year for the upcoming year. I would advise that you all get familiar with the poverty guideline, and then you may know the types of services that are available to you. Fortunately, there are states who have started to recognize that percentage, that group that's right above what they consider the poverty level. They also have started to provide resources for that. Because a family that's making $20,000, mom, you know, that means she's grossing 20. That means she's bringing home like 14 annually, $1,000. Right? But they look at gross. They don't look at your net, what you're netting, bringing home. right? It's before taxes. That's what the federal guideline is. I would also advise you guys to check your local agencies, a community action agency. There isn't a city in all of America who doesn't have a community action. They may call it different things, but every program in it is free. It's not just for rental assistance. It's not just for HEAP, for utility assistance. We have 7 different job training programs, and we struggle every single quarter to fill them. Every quarter. And a quarter is 3 months. And we struggle to fill them. It's manufacturing, it's construction, it's CDA, it's a start to other things that you may want to do. And it's free. And every quarter we struggle to fill them. Check your local United Way. Check your local Urban League. It may not be called Urban League in your area, but if you look up Urban League in Columbus, it's going to give you the closest thing to what an urban league is because these are federally funded programs. That means that they exist nationally because the federal government is the national government, right? So I think the resources are out there. And then work though, I think that's the other part, right? If you get in the CDA class, which is a child development associate, right? If you get in it, you got work to do, so be prepared to do that. It's a support system because everybody that's in that cohort with you is striving for the same thing. The cohort becomes your support system. I would just suggest that you have to trust something if you want to improve the quality of your life. We know who gave us the illness. The question is who's going to be responsible for the cure? And that's where, if you let them feed you, they can starve you too, comes in. Why would we let them do that?
I think this is an amazing opportunity as well. Going back to the very top of the conversation, this is a great opportunity right now with the world opening back up for churches to capitalize and really impact their congregation. I get the bulletins are great. We appreciate the pastor and the first lady, and we give honor to God. And that's great. But in that bulletin, why don't you put some resources? Because people getting ready, the stimulus is stopping. Why don't you hold some workshops on writing resumes? Why don't you tell people, why don't you have an ELA class? Why don't you have a GED class
for your family? Cook a meal for little money that can stretch. How about
exactly the beauty in making soups and pastas, and then have those resources. If you don't have money and you need medical attention, mental health, physical therapy, if you need a ride to work, because where I live, buses don't come out here. Do you know what I mean? So, that type of stuff is critical, and it could be a huge win for the church, a huge win. And it would let the people that pay their tithes and offering into you know that you appreciate them. And this message was brought to you at no charge. I'm just trying to help.
We have to, if we have to be a community again. Around all of these issues, we have got to learn to be a community again, where we learn to take care of each other. This whole idea of mind your business, you can't mind your business and have a village. We got to make a decision about what we want to do. Do we want to mind our business, or do we want the village to return? See, this is what the Panthers understood.
Right.
And
there were only 9 principles. There were only 9 things they wanted. It was just 9. It was only 9 things.
They fed each other. They educated each other. They had doctors in their community who could tend to your physical and mental needs. Like, either we're going to do that, and there is no mind your business of what happens in this house, or we're not. As a people, we have to decide what we want to move this needle forward.
And And with that, I want to get into the comments sections. Ty's going crazy up in here with the hearts. Much love. She's also about to back to love, but she wanted this.
Hey, Ty. Hey, boo.
Yes, let's on Ty. She says, a lot of times with pregnant women, they go to the doctor out of concerns and get turned away and end up dying. The mother and or the baby. And yes, true, along with health, as we was talking about birth doulas and having babies at home. Donna asked the question, how can we find common ground with the medical industry? Is it a solution just not to go to the doctor? Of course not.
That's not the solution.
A lot of people are going back to nature. In that case, there are plenty of holistic doctors like you and so mentioned. Do your research, helps a lot, which also is another thing I want to quickly add. I will not mention the doctor's name, but there is a holistic doctor, and he was actually providing affordable resources for holistic care, and people were getting better. I'm not going to say if that's the reason why, but this gentleman is not working anymore. For years, he's been fighting him on his own. He's not Black either. I won't say any other details, but there is an issue there that needs to be asked about, and it's not even talked about. So there are out there, but if you're making solutions, there's going to be some haters. There's going to be some opposition. So that happens. And Linda B. Knits replies, how can we find a common ground with the medical industry? She says, to start, if a doctor makes you uncomfortable, change doctors. Somehow we have to encourage the Black youth to become Black doctors. Like I was saying, incorporate science programs as an option instead of having just sports. Yes. Not everybody needs to be, J. Cole said this best. Everybody wants to be a basketball star, but they only got 21 spots on the Pistons. I probably butchered that line, but basically there's only 21 spots. So
I love J. Cole.
And there's free mental health services out there, Ty said, especially if you don't have a job. And Cora says it's all about the label, sad on all levels. Ultimately, the child suffer. She was responding to the IEP. And I think there's nothing wrong with you getting help early on. If someone is falling behind, that just means they need extra help. And that this is not directly connected to that, but it's that mentality that I think of. I was just talking to one of my bank teller friends. I was counting some money, and this is the first time that I counted without double counting. And the reason why I mentioned that out loud to this person, I said, for a long time, people thought I had problems with math. Actually, I was good at math. I just had a hard time understanding as it got more evolved. I just needed to find my way of understanding it. They just automatically said, oh, he doesn't know how to do math. And that thought maybe said, I can't do math. I can't do math. I'm 30 years old. And that was told to me when I was 9. I'm just not working out. I can count money and not feel like, you didn't count that right, without counting it 5 times and still second guessing myself. So we have to teach, educate more instead of just labeling you as a problem. And don't think that all labels, if you don't understand what a label is, ask the question, going back to all these phrases. Why are we saying this? Why are you saying I'm not crazy? Why am I saying just pray about it? What is the root reason why you're saying that? And is it helpful? Are you okay with that answer that you come up with? And you said it, we pretty much all have explained the whole thing of whatever happens in this house stays in this house. I think the biggest answer is trusting each other, and then also trusting yourself. Because
can I say one more thing? And she does not know I'm about to say this, and I am so sorry. I am not trying to put her on blast or on Front Street. But if you have not gotten your copies of On the Edge of Mercy and you want to look at a real glimpse at some mental health stuff that is generational and it trickles down and how we deal with it, I strongly encourage you to run to Amazon right now and get that book, written by our very own Don Wisdom Crooks. You want to read that book. I promise you, once you get through the first part, I think I did 700 pages in what, a day and a half, 2 days, Don. I blew through all 3 books.
Yeah. Honestly,
Yeah.
the reason that I wrote that is because it was loosely based on a true story, and I watched 3 generations of women be destroyed by what the parent generation, the grandparent generation experienced, and how that abuse trickled down through the generations, that trauma trickled down to the point that by the time it got to Mercy, who's the main character, she had never even experienced it for herself. She never experienced the physical abuse herself. What was given to her, what she carried was the generations. She learned to be traumatized by the trauma that existed before her. Literally, she carried it for her whole life, and to this day carries it still. The real person. And so I think that we do have to listen. I want to roll back to the kids real quick, and then we can come back to Mercy. If you are not sure of what is being said to you about your child in a school setting, there are children advocates. There are children advocates through JFS. There are children advocates through Beach Acres Parenting. They will be an advocate for you. If you are not certain of what is being said to you about your child and you do not know how to address it, and you don't know the right questions to ask, Children's Hospital has an advocacy program. Reach out and find you an advocate for your child.
Please, and if you are that parent whose son, especially your son, he's always being taken out of the group or put in some type of disciplinary action, or they're not giving him the attention, they never have anything positive to say, please, please, please reach out, because those are symptoms of teachers and not educators not understanding that your child may have something. And there is a difference between teacher and an educator, but there could be symptoms of something else that your son or daughter needs. And don't just accept it. I get it. We got to go to work. The world's open back up. We can't afford to pay for daycare or summer camp or none of that, because we've been on the layback for 18 months. But please don't let that slip away. Please ask a question. Get it. As a former educator, I can't tell you how important that is. Talk. If you don't know how to talk, get somebody to talk for you.
An advocate, that's right. And Mo and I in 2 weeks will be talking about the Classroom to Prison pipeline.
Yes, awesome.
And many of our children are coming into the school system already very much traumatized. Our children are experiencing, even if they aren't experiencing it, if they, let's just say, had a cousin who was murdered by the police or in some other violent encounter in the community, believe it or not, our kindergartens are bringing that with it.
Absolutely.
You may not know that the child is experiencing what you were experiencing, but they are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And a lot of times, I agree that there are children who get ignored in schools, but we've actually had 4-year-olds who threw chairs. They were already violent at 4. Mm-hmm. And what happens is the parent immediately feels shame.
You can't have it.
They feel fault for it. And it's really hard to break that. It really is hard to break that shell. So I would just advise those parents whose children may be struggling in the school, please find you an advocate. There are people who are here going to advocate for your child before they end up in front of a judge.
Or worse, yeah. You can't expect, one of the mantras I had, especially when my son was born, and I stopped beating myself up trying to figure out how he has Asperger's, because I didn't, in our community, we didn't talk about that, but I believe a lot of people prior to my generation had it. We just didn't know what it was. But after I stopped beating myself up about it and I began to educate myself on it, I went into every meeting very clear. I had to take ownership of his education. I had to. I worked. I wasn't a stay-at-home mom. We both worked. You know, thankfully, his grandmother was around to pick him up or do whatever. You know, but you can't be afraid to ask the questions. But you also can't be afraid to interact with your child because they may tell you more than you think too. Mm-hmm. They may tell you more than you think. Whenever Don comes to my house, my son has to be one of the most polite young men she has ever. I think he paid more attention to her than he do to me, but that's just because she's cute. But you know, ask questions. Don't let that. It's not anything to be ashamed of. I actually started looking at it. You know what? My son came to teach me something. TJ taught me such a level of patience and grace that I never had before. I never had that before. I never had it. And I owed it to him to be his biggest advocate, supporter, coach, whatever. And that's what we did. So don't be afraid to ask questions about your babies. Never. Because they just learn differently. And an educator will recognize that, a teacher won't. An educator will.
Yes, and I'm going to touch on that word advocacy, bring it home to the main topic of erasing the shame around mental health, talking about it. Be your own advocate. Trust in yourself. First, let me back up. What happens in this house stays in this house. A level of trust has to be built with the community around you. And it doesn't have to be the people that you're used to. Maybe they won't understand. That's a hard pill I had to swallow. The people around you might not understand. Look anyway, because somebody out there is going to understand you, and maybe in the places that you might not have thought it was going to be. With that leading into the idea of trust in yourself. Advocate for yourself. Do not be afraid of getting, you're crazy. You don't need a doctor. I don't understand. That's white people problems. That's coming from a person who doesn't understand. When they don't understand it, that means they fear it. And what this fear does, it attacks. It attacks what it doesn't understand. You have to be, you have to be willing to take the blows and also acknowledge when you get to your own inner place, wash it off, because none of that sticks unless you allow it to be. You are responsible for your own health, what you see for yourself. If you have any kind of issues, take care of it. Nobody's gonna speak up louder for you than you. And in part of erasing the shame is talking about it, talking about it with the white people, talk until you are heard by the white people. I will repeat again. I'm still on my mental health journey. I'm still on my own spiritual journey. It takes time, but it's possible. It's difficult, but it's a possibility. In the words of James Baldwin, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. So I would implore you, trust in yourself, heal yourself, and choose yourself to love yourself enough every day, a little bit more, like the onion that Virginia has said, peel back little by little, day by day, because that's progress. And I think that's it. Is anybody have any? I know we already talked about the Prison to Pipeline podcast. That's up next.
Actually, next week is Shop Talk.
Oh yeah, Shop Talk.
And we're going to be talking about representation. And is there a bias in representation between men and women? And it's interesting. Of course, we're having the bonnet conversation, right? But we were really surrounding it with whether or not there is a a double standard in terms of representation. So I'm gonna leave that there. We haven't finished writing the outline and getting it all developed and everything, but between myself, Natasha, and Regina, it will be done. Join us next Sunday for that at 7 p.m. The following Sunday, myself and Miss Mo Poetry Phillips is going to be working on a podcast for the Classroom to Prison Pipeline. I think she has a little bit more insight on that, so I asked her to be. I'm passionate about it, but I don't really know the history of it, and really how to identify if your child is in a school that is feeding the prison pipeline. And so we'll be talking about that. And then the last one, we're going to be talking about spirituality in the modern world. Do they conflict? Do they coincide? Can they coincide? Can they live happily ever after in the same space? So definitely, again, this is what we do. Always a very enlightened conversation, I believe. But we are talking about the things that are hard to talk about in the community. And I hope that you all realize that we are talking about these things from a place of love.
Absolutely.
There's absolutely nothing punitive about the way that we represent Back to Love movement. We are not blaming, shaming, whatever else aiming that you can come up with, okay? We hope that we are providing resource to you as we continue to do these things. So thanks so much for joining us this evening. Any final words, my good peoples?
Actually, to bounce off of what you said, Don, I do feel I must apologize to the community. And for that very reason, the last podcast I was on was the first mental health in which I was learning. I was speaking from a place of pain. I wasn't as direct in giving what I felt like was solid information. Even though the information was there, I was speaking from a place of pain. And someone had said, we do not give leaders. Actually, we talked about this in the podcast about the humanity versus the gift. And I was human in that moment. And I wanted to acknowledge that if anyone watches that and felt that energy, it was me. So if I came
acknowledge, do not apologize. This is a space of grace. And however you come, we're gonna get you up in here and love up on you and rub you some salve. Salve, that's an old word. Look it up.
That's salve. You got that salve, baby. It's called salve.
It's called salve because Black people wouldn't pronounce the L. It's spelled A-L-V-E.
And I'm Black and I ain't pronouncing the L. It's salve, baby.
It
ain't save and it ain't solve. We're going to put some ointment on it. We're going to put a little ointment on it and make it all right. Just an ointment. A little bay leaves, a little cayenne pepper, some turmeric. You're going to be all right, sugar.
Yes, honey, yes. We will be in the building. Any final. So I'm sorry, so I didn't mean to interrupt, but seriously, acknowledge, and I think that's a good thing, but apologize, no. Because we know where you are, and if you have an issue with something that is being said here, then please, by all means, let's dialogue about it. And I'm talking dialogue, not argue, not debate. That's not what's happening, not here. You can scroll up and down Facebook and do that all day, not at Back to Love. Any finals from the good peoples? Mo, Regina?
Good, thank you. Good.
I thought you had some quotes, Mo, that you wanted to share with the good people.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Good. Okay, for another time. Thank you, though.
All right. Well, so is this good evening?
Yes, I think it's a good evening. All right. Thank y'all for joining.
Yeah.
You all have a beautiful rest of your week.
You too. See you later.
Yeah.
And come and holler at us July 16th. It's going down. It's going down.
July 16th is what? What are we doing on July 16th?
16th and 17th. Shameless plug. July 16th, hit the mic, open mic. July 17th is Regal Rhythms Slam.
Mo, is that you?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to put that on the calendar. I might have to see what I can do.
Yeah.
Come on through. I'm back on the hosting tip. I love hosting. I've decided I don't even know if I want to spit any poetry. I really don't. I'm contemplating. We shall see. So do come and join us by all means.
She gonna spit, y'all. See the face?
I love hosting because y'all let me act all kind of fools. Y'all never stop me either. But all right, good people, good night. And it has been an absolute blessing to share this space and this time with you. Have a wonderful week, and we shall see you in 7 days.
Yeah. Bye. Have a great night.
Peace.